Hey everybody, what's going on? It's your friend James Shaw. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with us. We're doing what we always do, which is talk to elite people who are doing elite things, and today is no different. We're going to talk with Gregory about getting freedom. You're figuring out your freedom numbers, so you know kind of what your goals are, and then you have a chance to step back. It's not work, work, work all the time, but you know if you're winning, if you're on the path to achieve the goals you want. That's what we're talking about with Gregory today. But would you introduce yourself, tell us who you are and where you are, and a little bit about your business?
Yeah, my name's Gregory Tran. I'm here in Austin, Texas, the motherland of KW. I've been with KW my entire real estate career, so it's been 11 or 12 years now, and I run a solo agent business. It's just me as an agent, and I have a wonderful support team and operations team that helps out. And so we have our retail business, and we also do some activities on the investment side as well. But everything is residential real estate.
And that's why you got your license, right? Because you were pursuing this goal of investing and building up your rental portfolio.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. I got the license really, it was after we had bought one property or two properties. But I just wanted to be able to show myself homes on my own schedule, and that's the only reason I got the license. Never meant to sell. But the funny thing about Keller Williams is you show up to one or two of these classes at your market center, and next thing you know, you're trying to build a business.
And it's gotten you into Gary's private mastermind group, and you built something pretty successful. And the reason we had you on today is because you're really passionate about this idea of a freedom number, which is an important concept, I think, for people. Will you describe what that means to you?
Yeah, to me, what the freedom number means is it's the amount of passive income that you need to live the life that you want. And so the life that what you want is what you're doing right now, then it's enough passive income to support that. But you can of course adjust up and down as you need.
And that's what we're going to unpack today. So walk us through an agent who wants to kind of figure out how they even get to the freedom number, how it helps them, and then we'll talk about how you are reaching that on an annual basis.
Yeah, and really, I mean, even before we talk about how to figure it out, I think it's important to realize like why you even want to get there, right? We're real estate agents. Most of us are entrepreneurial. We're looking to build things, and everyone always has their big why, right? Like we want to support like the people we care about, our family, or even if we just want to be rich, whatever it is. But we have some kind of goals. But in real estate, like really, like once you stop selling houses, there's not like you don't have like a pension, right? You don't most of us don't have like 401ks. So the thing is you also have to take care of that future part of it. And and I think that future date comes a lot quicker than people realize. So I think it's really important for people to start thinking about this and start thinking about their future, because like every day, every like the more time you're in it is when it really grows. But you asked about how to figure out the freedom number, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, the concept of it is really important because otherwise you end up selling homes until you're 92, and I don't want you to do that. I want you to be able to enjoy your life, stop selling when you want to stop selling, whether that's in the middle of the year or at some point in your career. Just know what that looks like. So thank you for unpacking that. But now tell us, how do we get there? How do we figure that out?
The easiest thing for me is this is what I did is I sat down and I took my prior year's records, right? So I pulled down like all my credit card bills, I pulled down all the account activity on my checking accounts, and really I added up every single dollar I spent on that year. This doesn't include like business expenses, but it does include things like mortgage, or like if you pay for like school or anything like that. I just added up every single dollar and came up with a number of what I spent the previous year. And then now you have that number. And then I thought to myself, like, well, if I had that year, like if I had that year every year, would I be happy? Right. And for me the answer was yes. But I know for other people, like, you may want more, or maybe that was just a particularly extravagant year and you actually don't even feel like you need that much. And you can of course adjust up and down. But I think just knowing what that baseline number is really important. What I'll tell you is that I knew this was something I was supposed to do for years, and frankly, I avoided it. Like for 6 or 7 years, I knew I was supposed to do this, and instead of actually going through this exercise, I just kind of made up a number in my mind and said that that's what my number was. But really, I found I was really just trying to avoid it because I didn't want to know like how much I was spending and how much it was costing and how high this number might be.
You have a one-page worksheet you put together that you're sharing with our Inspire Collective members to help them kind of figure this out. So if you're an Inspire Collective member, you can go to jamesdshaw.com and download the worksheet. It's in the portal. If you're not a member of Inspire, you can go to jamesdshaw.com and check it out. But what I'm hearing you just say is it brings clarity, not just around the goal of, hey, I want to sell this many houses this year in the business, but what
Yeah.
your business allows you to do. It keeps the things that are important to you in front of you, because it's easy in this business to get so hyper focused on, I got to get another transaction, that we can forget about the things that make this a life worth living. It seems like this helps you keep it a life worth living.
James, I love that you mentioned that. Like we're so trained in this business to have our goals of like how many houses are we going to sell, like what GCI, whatever metrics it is that we and our coaches go over every year. But I think this freedom number is actually more important than that because that's the freedom number is actually the big picture. That's about your life. Right, your life is supposed to come first, and this business is supposed to service like what you want in your life. So there's no point of figuring out how many houses you want to sell or what kind of GCI you want to get or what awards you want to get if that doesn't if you don't know what you want in your life and if that isn't in service of that.
You said earlier that you kind of had this as a concept, like that you knew that you should really work on it, but you never really did until recently. And when you did get clarity on it, it really opened up your life. What was the shift for you? What took you from, yeah, I should probably do that, to this is what I'm going to do?
Frankly, it was my coach. She had brought it up years ago that I should do it, and like I said, I avoided it for a long time. But really, with really just a consistent asking of like, hey, did you do this? Did you do this? Finally, I was like, I'm gonna do the whole clarity thing, and I'm gonna sit down and go through the exercise.
I'm proud of you for doing it. It seems like, though, that this business can be one that it is very consuming. And if you aren't careful, it can lead to I don't know, some burnout, or something that pulls you away and gets you out of focus. And yet, if you get clarity around what's important to you, that might give you a little bit more fuel. Have you ever had a time where you were working so hard that you forgot why you were doing it in the first place and just had to like bail?
It happens all the time with me, frankly. Burnout happens for me probably multiple times a year. And the funny thing is, it's more likely to happen when things are going really well. So like the better we've done in the sales business is when I'm more likely to be burned out because that's when more things are happening and you're just like really really busy. But like you mentioned, real estate and especially residential real estate, it's like to be good at this career, you have to have this mindset that you're always out there to help other people. And when you have that mindset, like it's very easy to like take everyone's stuff and internalize it and think about like, gosh, what can I do to help these people? And it very easily will consume, like it will consume 100% of your mind. And so if you're not careful about actually carving out a little bit of time outside of that, then once again it takes over everything. So like you said, it really has to be a priority for you to take time for yourself, like whether it's like every day or every week or something, to think about that road that you want to be on and make sure you aren't just like running as fast as you can in a random direction.
If someone's struggling with that, of figuring out what road they want to be in and what path they want to take, what advice would you give that person?
I would say you just have to take time. This is something that I was not very good at until the last few years. Like pandemic was probably a trigger for part of it. But what I found was before I was always like running full speed ahead, whether it was in work or I'd always be trying to educate myself. Like you know the type of person who listens to like 70 audible books a year, and when they're not listening to like the business audiobooks. They're listening to the podcast. Like every single minute, like I'd be walking around, I'd be listening to something, trying to learn something, and and I got a lot of it. But what I realized actually when I stopped doing that and started giving myself some white space, is that all those times when I was just consuming these information, like all that time was time that my mind never had time to actually sit by itself and process and put ideas together and actually think like big picture. So you ask me what someone should do if they feel like they're on that treadmill. I think you really just have to pause and you have to make a point of giving yourself time where it's just you and your mind and no other inputs other than what's there.
It seems like that's a common thing in the business. I refer to it as productivity dip. That a lot of times people in this industry feel like if they aren't constantly working, then they're getting behind. But what I'm hearing you say is first get clarity on what you desire to get from the business. Figure out what you want to make from it. And you're saying divide it by 12 so you kind of know monthly if you're on track. Figure that out and get clarity around that, around how it supports the life you want to live. And then take a step back for a minute, focus on the right activities, but you don't have to be consumed all the time about go, 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 go. If you know the numbers you need to hit and you're on track to hit those numbers, that gives you a little bit of freedom and flexibility, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So then the next piece would be you might want to add other pieces to it. Like for example, for you, you get to your freedom number not just through your real estate business. You've got other things you're involved in. What are some of the other things you're doing? They may not be the things that people watching this want to do, but you have multiple streams, and that seems to be key as well.
Yeah, you know, if I really simplify it, I'd say that that for us, the passive income that we've built comes from two main sources. The first source, which is about 50% of it, is what most of us probably know, and it's your typical residential real estate, you know, cash flowing rentals. So we've got a mixture of you know, single family, two family, four family, and we have those here. Most of it is here in Austin, Texas, but I also have a handful of properties in out of state, just to have a little bit of diversification there. But that's the main thing. The second thing that I started doing a few years back is really being on the other side of it. So the first side of it is owning the asset, right? The other side of it is the banking part of it. What people don't realize is anytime you are buying a property and you have a mortgage, or if you're, you know, flipping a property and you're getting a hard money loan, you know, you're making those payments to someone who is acting as a banker. So that's something that we started doing a few years ago, doing a lot of hard money lending, helping people out who are you know, usually investing, flipping properties, doing that kind of short term stuff, and that's where the other 50% of our passive cash flow is coming from now.
And so it's figure out what are the streams that are right for you. You figured out what your streams are, and so
Yep.
someone else would need to figure out what theirs are. But I imagine that you've learned some lessons on this journey as well. You've made some mistakes or had some ahas. What are some of those that you've learned?
You know, some of the one okay, well, one of the biggest lessons I learned is to keep it to keep it up front and center and remember to do that. Because when I got like I said, I got into this business for the reason of creating passive income, right? Like I got into it because I wanted to buy rental homes. But very quickly after getting into it, I went years without doing anything because I got so focused on like on selling homes that I just never had enough time to you know to think about buying a rental. So what would happen in those years is I'd go a few years without doing anything, and I'd be like, oh man, I haven't done anything for a while, and then like I do a couple things, I'd forget about it for a couple years and do it again, right? So for the first lesson, it's like just be consistent about it, right? Like I've shown that even if you're not consistent about it and you at least like keep on doing it once in a while, like real estate, you know, real estate is one of those things that given enough time, it's gonna be good for you anyways. So that's probably the first lesson I've gotten from all of this. The second lesson I learned in the last few years, and and that comes from this. Like I had done a fair amount of these residential deals, and honestly, I thought I thought I was pretty good at it, and I thought I knew just about everything there was to know about cash flowing real estate and how to create passive income. What I didn't realize was that there's this whole other world out there of things that you can do, even if you want to keep it in the real estate space that I frankly didn't even know about. So I started learning about these things. I mean, I went through a journey of probably more than a year where I started reading all these books about things that I didn't know about before, where I joined different mastermind groups that were, some were real estate related, some were not real estate related. But I just went on this learning journey where I learned about a whole bunch of stuff, tried a whole bunch of things, but before kind of coming back and figuring out where I wanted that focus to be. So really that second lesson for me is just understanding that there is so much more out there that we can learn about that we don't already know, and just understand that you don't actually know everything.
What would you want someone to know based on what we've talked about today? You want them to walk away with a takeaway or an aha. What is it?
Uh, something that I've been thinking about recently is like in the education path. I think we don't talk about this a lot, but we have to understand that like models change. So something once again like 10 years ago you could buy a residential property and it's cash flowing off the bat, right? So that was something simple. There's like tons of books written about it. Even if you go out to read a book now, that's most likely what it's going to talk about. However, like over the last few years, like the environment has changed a lot for that, right? With interest rates being higher, prices being higher. If you want like that kind of typical cash flow type property, you have very few options, very few locations where that type of thing works anymore right now. And you can choose to either try to use that same model and fit the tiny part where it still works, or you can see if there's other models that are available, that may perform different. So one another thing in this learning experience is understanding that like that markets change, and in different markets there may be one thing that performs better than other things. But if you don't know about the existence of that thing, then you wouldn't be able to take advantage of it. You'd be sitting there still trying to do the same thing. This of course goes back to lending. Look, 5 years ago, there's like I didn't even realize that a normal person like me could do something like that. It wasn't until recently that I learned that, and just by having that different tool in my tool belt, it's made just a massive difference in our lives.
My lesson from you is just be curious. Just know that there are so many different ways to accomplish the goals that you'd like to accomplish. Be curious about how you can reach them. Gregory, how can somebody get in contact with you if they want to connect with you more? Maybe they've got a referral to give, or they want to learn something from you.
They can follow me on Facebook or Instagram. You can just search my name; it's out there. Honestly, you can email me. I'm Greg at gregorygrouptx.com, or shoot me a text 512-765-4337. I'm out there.
You're awesome. I appreciate you joining and sharing with us and chunking this down. I appreciate what you're doing inside of KW, and thank you for sharing with us today.
Yeah, love it. Thanks, James.